You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 266. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
And I'm Jeff Barnhart, son of a mummy and a two-headed hillbilly.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhouse. You can find our show and other nifty content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy this program, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. And now, if you want to support this show financially for all of your the fun that you've had listening to it, please visit us at patreon.com/Comic Reflections. Comic Reflections is one word. And give us your money.
Okay.
All right.
Yay. Okay.
All right. So this episode, Jeff, we are going to talk about the recently departed Jack Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Davis passed away July 27th of 2016. And he's probably the most recognizable cartoonist of the past century. If you think about it. I mean, sure, you and I are familiar with his EC.
It doesn't have a comic strip. I mean, comic strips are so super. Everyone knows it. I mean,
right. But look. What can you think of any artist who has probably had more exposure in advertising alone than Jack Davis?
Right. The problem with Jack Davis is that he is not a big. His name's not big. Just his talent and.
Even if you don't know the name Jack Davis, you have seen his work. If you are alive on planet Earth.
I was reading Wikipedia about him, and I didn't know he did the Raid commercial, and neither did you. You were saying
that was new to me, and I realized the Raid, commercial with the cockroach from that was was probably my first exposure to his work.
But if Dr. Seuss or Charles Schultz had done it, we would have known it, and but
sure,
I was not surprised. But having said that, he is amazing. He's done a bunch of movie posters,
yes,
Kelly's Heroes,
album covers, lots of
Mad
things,
World,
trading cards, and many advertisements that we've even seen in comic books. Mm-hmm. It's funny, we've probably seen more Jack Davis ads in comics than we've talked about stories of his on the show.
Right.
Because we really haven't talked much about EC or Mad, only in passing. And very prolific at EC, and then of course he worked on Mad Magazine for decades.
And he's probably the best caricaturist.
But
of all time.
He's great at doing cartoony illustration with a humorous bent. But as we'll see even on the four stories we're going to talk about today, he can draw serious as well. Let's talk about this.
Okay.
In 2012, Fantagraphics Books put out this freebie called Jack Davis's Tales from the Crypt, and it just is a selection of four of his stories from EC that were put into a book that Fantagraphics released that was all Jack Davis stories. And so we're going to talk about the first story here is Bats in My Belfry. Originally from Tales from the Crypt number 24 from June and July of 1951. This story was written by Al Feldstein, penciled and inked by Jack Davis. So we have the typical Tales from the Crypt splash panel with the Crypt Keeper surrounded by ghastly visions.
I didn't notice until right now, the Crypt Keeper has his hands folded and he's in his chin on top of this horrible skull. I mean, horrible as in horrifying. I mean, it's just wow. God, it's got his tongue out the side of the mouth or something like that. Wow, that is something else.
Yeah,
I can see why parents got crazy over this back in the 50s. It is amazingly. The stories here is not that bad, but some of the images are really horrifying.
Especially considering it 1951. Jeez.
Yeah.
But what I think is so one of the things that was so wonderful about EC was they didn't just have a couple of great artists. Practically everyone in their stable was maybe some of the best comic book art produced at the time or since. And Jack Davis just was one of many stars on their roster. But anyway, let's talk about Bats in My Belfry.
Yeah. One thing I just noticed here that his hands are so well drawn, and they're just I don't know. It's just one of the most coolest things ever
Well,
to
and
see
you know,
their
when like
hands.
hands are a thing that like are some of the trickiest things for artists to draw.
Yeah, and but they for a static medium, the hands using hands to portray emotions, pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this guy, Harry Gordon. He's an actor, and he's going deaf. He goes to the doctor. Doctors say there's no cure for you, and he's got a wife. She doesn't look like a nice person, so she's worried about the money situation.
Yeah. Typical Tales from the Crypt scenario.
Hmm.
I'm surprised she doesn't try to kill him for the insurance money.
Oh,
Because that's in so many of those. That's the
yeah, it comes up in the story.
oh, that's right.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
I forgot. Sorry.
So, so he's an actor, so he cannot act because you have to hear people.
Yeah, you have
Um,
to get your cues for your when your line's going to be delivered.
right. So he goes to an old friend of his who's going blind,
Who went blind?
who went blind, and or did he? And he realizes the guy knew his name
Yeah.
and could read his lips. So I thought you were blind. And he says, "Oh, look at my cat eyes." He went to this.
Yeah, he was wearing dark glasses to cover it up, but he went to a weird surgeon who was not a doctor, but he replaced his eyes that didn't no longer function with cat eyes, and so he could see.
Yeah, sort of. Good plan. Okay.
Yeah.
So so he goes to this doctor's house, and it's an EC comic dungeon type thing.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, and he's creepy.
Yeah.
So they said,
Are you
"Well,
kidding? This guy makes the crypt keeper look like Gregory Peck
right, yeah,
or Montgomery Clift or something.
mhm. So he said, well, instead of you don't need cat eyes, we'll give you bat ears, which is whoa." And, the thing is, why don't he give him human ears or some of that? Isn't there a graveyard nearby that he can do something? So, and and why cat eyes? So, oh, the bat ears goes in, and he can hear every dang thing really well.
Yeah,
Uh,
like Daredevil.
yeah, yeah. I have hard hearing. I'm wearing hearing aids right now, so just a little bit more poignancy. Um, Plus, stuff when you lose sight, have bad eyesight. Everything's wrong with me, but it's
Well, I wasn't going to say anything
yeah.
this
Okay.
time.
But it's really losing that stuff is super bad.
Yeah,
And I can't imagine. I'd rather go deaf than blind.
me too.
Yeah, because at least I can read a book or watch movies with captions on.
Yeah,
Um, but deaf makes it hard to live. So.
yeah. I think you're missing out on a lot.
Hmm. Okay, so he comes in. His hearing is so great that everything sounds exploding in
Yeah.
his ears.
So, but he goes home and he finds out his wife. He overhears that his wife's got a lover. She's talking to him on the phone. She's going to leave her husband for this guy.
Hmm. So now he said, "Well, I'm not gonna go home. I'm gonna wander the streets." And he wanders the streets at night. Then he gets, "Oh, I'm getting tired. So let me hang upside down." I wonder why.
Right.
So he's getting hair on his forehead, and he's acting weird. And he's getting a wing under his or
Under his arm.
on
Yeah.
his arm.
Yeah.
So he says, "Well, what's going on?" So he goes back to his friend with the cat eyes, and he's turning into a panther because that's where the evil doctor got his eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, so the guy says, "Don't go get your ears." There's, oops, too late.
Right.
Because-
So meanwhile, Joan, the wife, and the lover are plotting to get bump off the husband for the insurance money, which is
yeah.
which is the constant Tales from the Crypt trope.
Hmm.
It's like married person is bored, find somebody new, let's kill off the old spouse for the insurance money, and then you get the money, and then they come back as a ghoul and kill you.
Yeah. Hmm. Not a good plan.
Yeah.
Didn't they watch Double Indemnity? It doesn't work. And the insurance company knows all that stuff. Well, it gives a reason for murder that people understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was amused. The insurance payoff was $15,000. You know, like
Wow.
you know,
You could put a down payment on a car for that.
yeah. So, but they plan to kill him, and he overhears it. They hear him overhearing them,
So the
and
lover says, "Well, all right, I'm gonna get you, man. I gotta kill you."
mhm,
And so,
he comes back at him and it scares him, and he kills him, and he finds out, oh, he's not just a bat; it's a vampire bat.
he drank all the blood from the his wife's lover, and he kills his wife, and then he goes and finds a crypt to reside in because with his friend the Cat Man to help him out.
And he's feeding the cat man human flesh.
Cool.
So I guess man was never meant to use animal products for aesthetics.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
here's
know.
something. There's a term that gets used for things like this, where something is taking you over, or you're rotting
Yeah.
away. Body horror.
Yeah.
And a prime example of this, and it would have been fairly contemporary to this, or known to Al Feldstein, was a book called The Hands of Orlac,
I've heard of this.
and it was made into a movie a couple of times. The version I've seen is a movie from 1935 with Peter Lorre called Mad Love.
Hmm.
And anyway, there's a character, he's a piano player. This isn't
Mhm.
Laurie's character. He's a concert pianist, and he gets his hand smashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a surgeon who is in love with his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a creepy guy, Dr. Gogol. And he replaces his hands, translates them with the hands of a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the murderous hands take over the guy's body.
Yeah. Hmm. I think there was a MST3K, the crawling hand.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of hand jokes. You gotta hand it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. To catch a hand, you gotta think like a hand.
Right.
You need a handgun. It went through about 10 minutes of that, and it was all funny.
Yeah.
Not the greatest story.
But it's pretty fun.
His drawing style is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, he draws these monsters real good.
Yeah, I can see Jack Davis here, but it's not obvious.
No?
Some of the things, maybe the hands and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, but well done. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So the next story we're going to talk about comes from Tales from the Crypt number 33, which would have been the December of 1952, January 53 issue. The story is called Lower Birth, written by Al Feldstein, penciled by Jack Davis, and inked by Jack Davis.
Okay. A splash panel with the Crypt Keeper.
As a carnival barker, that's
That-
great.
And it's very Jack Davis.
Yeah.
The eyes, the little figure of a corpse taking money. And
Yeah.
something. It just, yeah. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
and I think especially these splash panels with the Crypt Keeper, this is where you see you're like, yeah, Jack Davis can play it straight, but he's really a humor cartoonist.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's his strength. And I think it's kind of fun to have this wacky character introduce these really macabre stories.
Yeah. So, hey, we're just joking around here. It's
Yeah,
like, don't get nightmares, kid.
right.
Okay. All right. So,
So this story takes place in the 1800s.
yeah. I think 1840 maybe.
I don't know.
70 years before 1950. So
I think it said 80 years, but yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, and they're saying, well, people didn't have comic books and TV and radio and movies, so
Yeah.
and so,
The Earth was Squaresville.
Mm-hmm. So they did go to carnivals.
Yeah.
And this carnival was showing oddities. Really fat lady, 450 pounds. I probably know people who are 450 pounds now.
Can they leave the house?
Yeah. Let's see what else they got.
Skull-faced guy, tattooed
Yeah,
lady.
sword swallowers, yeah. But they got a mummy, which I didn't think it was such a big deal. A female mummy, that's not unheard of. But this is the only one in existence according to the comic book.
Yeah, well, and you have to think mummification. It's pretty exotic, especially this story taking place around 1870.
Yeah.
Not long after the war between the states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the guy who goes to Egypt and finds the mummy, he gives the 5 times a day. He gives the introduction to it.
Yeah, in the carnival sideshow.
Yeah, and he tells the story of Marana.
Or Myrna.
Yeah, he gets both names. So
That's cool.
I'm not sure why that is.
I think Myrna just something more familiar that people it's more palatable to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she's a slave girl to the pharaoh's wife,
Yeah.
and the pharaoh, um,
Wanted to put the wood to her.
yeah, and
She said no.
yeah,
So he had her put to
yeah,
death.
and he said yes to putting her, burying her alive
Yeah.
and mummifying her, which is a scientist going around taking this in the carnival and taking off the wrappings so that people can see the horrible face, which is pretty bad.
Pretty unscrupulous.
And the face is horrifying.
Yeah.
Very well drawn and looks like a mummy's face would look like. It's really well done.
Jeff, speaking of mummies, and this just real quick, are you familiar with the story of Elmer McCurdy?
No.
Well, this is something you're going to want to Wikipedia, and the listeners as well.
All right. So the carnival goes to another place in the Ozarks, and this guy
Isn't that where you're from?
No, for crying out loud.
Oh, 20 minutes away in South Carolina.
No, Ozarks are kind of farther south.
Oh, okay.
Appalachians is where I'm from. Appalachian is
I
the
thought
oldest.
Appalachians were the Ozarks.
No.
Still dueling banjos to the
Yeah.
death.
But the South will never live that movie down.
And north should they.
No. Hey, it was a Southerner who wrote it.
It's fine.
He died last year, I think.
Based on a true story.
Yeah. Mhm. No, it's
The
not.
Jeff Barnhart experience.
Shut up. Damn, Yankee. So this guy said, hey, I found out something really amazing for your carnival. So they go into this cavern and they find this dead two-headed boy and a vat of moonshine,
Yeah.
which happens all the time back in the Ozarks, I guess.
Yep.
So now we have so that doctor who discovered the two-headed boy. He is representing the two-headed boy. So now there's a rivalry, which really never goes anywhere between the mummy guy and the two-headed boy guy. But there is a thing going on between the two-headed boy and the mummy because they come alive and start liking each other.
Yeah.
They escape
And get married.
and they have a kid named the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. So anyway, the carnies are on the hunt looking for them, and they find them like a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the crypt keeper is the offspring of these sideshow freaks.
Yeah.
These two corpses.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's one heck of an origin story.
Yeah. And so the EC Comics, they had 3 horror hosts. They had the Old Witch and the Vault Keeper as well.
Mhm.
And the Old Witch, her origin story is great. That's an excellent story.
They mention it, but they don't say anything about it.
Right. The Vault Keeper didn't get one. Actually, the Vault Keeper is my favorite of the 3.
Huh. I wonder how they chose who was going to introduce the story. Or is there any reason are they any different?
What do you mean?
Which host is going to host which story? Is it by roll of the dice, or is it?
Well, I think once they got it established that, okay, Jack Davis was going to do the Crypt Keeper stories, Graham Ingalls was going to do the Old Witches stories, and that Johnny Craig would do most of the Vault Keeper stories. They kind of, each of them had their own kind of vibe with some of those stories a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Vault Keeper stories just because Johnny Craig's art is just so beautiful. Really Milton Caniff. Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
and there was a series that in the Old Witches stories, she had actually maybe it wasn't just the Old Witch. They would do these weird fairy tales, and Jack Kamen drew all of these, and they were just like this stuff, but like really gruesome ending fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's talk about the next story in there. It's called Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. And it's originally appeared in Tales from the Crypt number 34, which was the February and March of 1953 issue. The story was written by Al Feldstein with art by Jack Davis. I love the perspective of this story.
His perspective is you, the
Yeah.
reader.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not something I don't think I've seen anything prior to this that works in that framework, and not often since.
Yeah, there has been a movie.
Not the
two.
whole story,
Yeah.
you know.
There's been a movie or two that uses this,
Yeah,
and all the way through.
yeah, and that's
And
neat.
it doesn't come to my mind now, but
Yeah.
but it's interesting.
I
and
love this. This is a great splash with the Crypt Keeper. He looks excellent.
Yeah, and in front of all these dead bodies. That's kind
Of course.
Wow.
Well, he's in a crypt.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. So you, the reader, wake up, and there's this creepy doctor looking over. He looks like Captain Marvel's enemy.
Dr. Savannah.
Yeah.
Thaddeus Bodog Savannah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And we get some really, and you look down, you see your feet, and all, which is just really well done. And you break out, and then he walks away, and he walks into this carnival going on, and these people start screaming at him and chase him. Still don't know what you look like,
Right.
but I kind of had my suspicions already.
Right. It's not subtlety. Is not necessarily the strength of a lot of these EC horror comics.
Mm-hmm.
Now they will have that, like slow building and a lot of really surprising ones in a lot of their war stories or their crime or science fiction ones. Horror ones are like have the least moral fiber or whatever to them, other than don't murder people now.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't see many morals. I was going to write them all down, but
The ones that are really moralistic tend to not be so much their horror ones.
Yeah.
Other than somebody does a horrible thing and then they really get their comeuppance.
Mhm.
That's usually the formula. Although this one is kind of against the grain.
Yeah. I love this series of panels. This car comes up, says, "Hey, you need a lift?" And then he screams, and then he is killed by you, the reader. And then you see his dead body. And then you see his dead body being thrown away.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool looking. I like,
No, it's great.
it's the differences in expressions is wonderful. So you, the reader, goes and visits your wife, and she screams. So
What the heck, yo?
she runs away, and
She runs upstairs, and then as you follow her, she falls out the window
Mhm.
and dies.
Yeah.
So he decides to go, I'm going to go back to where I was and confront that scientist.
Yep.
Which, why didn't he initially?
Because the guy was out.
Oh, right,
Then he came back in. He gets killed. You, the reader, cannot speak. So he goes into a house of mirrors.
He's chased into a house of mirrors by
Yeah.
people.
Right.
And you see what you look like in the mirrors.
Yeah. And, of course, it's Frankenstein. And it's pretty darn good. I love Frankenstein's hand. And this little
Yeah.
details like that.
Yeah,
is
so
fun.
anyway, the guy, the mad scientist, he created his own Frankenstein's monster, and this in the classic image of that monster.
Right.
And I guess the monster in the story has another heart attack. He died originally of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And
Supposedly, because he sees himself all over the place, and he has a heart attack. So his image kills him.
yeah.
So. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, our fourth and final story in this issue is called By the Fright of the Silvery Moon. It's from Tales from the Crypt number 34, which was the April and May of 1953 issue. And this story was written by Al Feldstein with art penciled and inked by Jack Davis.
Yeah. There are 4 different fonts here.
In the splash panel page.
And it's pretty cool. This one, By the Friday of the Silvery Moon, is wonderful. I've never seen it before. That's kind of cool to make a whole new font. Maybe it exists. I never knew it, but okay.
The Crypt Keeper, another great Crypt Keeper image in this splash.
Yeah, he's petting his pet werewolf. Okay, we're on a farm, and a farmer and his boy are doing something with on the farm like thing. And
Okay.
here comes their other son and say, "Hey, I found a dead body." So they go there and they says,
Let's
"Man,
eat it. No,
yeah."
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, they find the body and it's like someone ate it or ate a part of it. So they're from Middle Europe, Hungary. We find out later on,
Uh-huh.
and he says, "Well, it must be a werewolf because there's nothing else eats things, and
Wait, what? No.
nothing else eats things around here."
Right.
I mean,
There's no like wild cats or anything around, so.
yeah, that's. I mean, even in Oregon, that's where we're at. It's kind of there's a lot of wilderness and all that stuff. There's not, I never heard
we
anyone.
have wild cats here. We do, and
Yeah.
bears, but not that much.
But when's the last time you heard someone getting eaten by them?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Like never.
Yeah. So they said, well, it's werewolves, but we're not going to tell anybody.
It's this father and his two sons.
Right.
Because the people won't believe us, and so whatever. But one of them spills the beans to the sheriff,
Yeah. Who believes them?
and then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna kill that werewolf.
Yeah, and he kills the father because they're just from Hungary. Well, we didn't have any werewolves before you came here.
Right. So, which is crappy, but I feel like that kind of thing happens in not situations like this because there's no such thing as werewolves, but you know what I mean. Like people end up getting killed because you think they're the murderer or whatever in a lot of fiction or otherwise. But
And in real life, too.
that's why I said or otherwise.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so the brothers vow they're going to clear their father's name by killing the real werewolf.
Right. But there's a nice little thing. The sheriff goes to the library and does research. And
Yeah.
I think that. So he gets a silver bullet and he shoots the father.
Yeah.
The brothers get a slingshot.
Yeah, and
And
they
you have a
sharpen
silver
a
dollar.
silver dollar, so it'll be sharp when they fire it.
Mm-hmm.
That's clever.
So then they hear, they're in the woods. They hear a werewolf. And one of the boys sees the werewolf. He shoots him with a silver dollar, kills him, and finds out, oh, it's my brother. Yeah. These are short.
Yeah,
And
I mean-
so there's not much. I saw something like that coming. So
Sure.
I guess the moral of the story: don't trust people from Hungary, right?
Or yeah,
I'm
it's morally
joking.
ambiguous. It's
Yeah.
just a shock ending, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about their horror stories is like the morals weren't like really strong ones.
Yeah.
It would be in their science fiction or war or other stuff.
Some of them could have been a bit longer. I think the one with the bat ears could have been a bit longer,
Yeah.
and stuff happened to them. And I don't know. And they're short, and that's kind of it's hard to work with that.
Sure.
Yeah. Really nice. Did you see the back cover?
Yeah, it's some more art by Jack Davis, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. I love the
It's the Crypt Keeper, like as a school bus driver, a school bus driver, or
yeah.
taking kids to camp.
Yeah, and the kids are horrified. And I love the minor characters in a Jack Davis artwork.
Yeah.
And he has his own way of doing that because it's not supposed to look like anybody particular. And I don't know, it's always fun to look at.
Yeah.
This is gorgeous. The cover has this. Is really. I was shocked when I saw this.
It's a zombie that, and it's from another Tales from the Crypt cover. This is
Man.
actually a close up of a larger image.
Yeah, man, it is gross.
Yeah.
and
But it's great.
yeah, I almost recoiled in horror when I saw it.
Oh man.
It's almost. So that's great. Good old Jack Davis.
Yeah. Never
R.I.P.
never replaced, and will definitely be missed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Until next time, this is Comic Reflections.
We'll see you in the funny pages.
Black Canary.
I'll need a sparring partner.
I'm Zatanna. Why do you care about some leggy dame in nylons? Or have I answered my own question? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for matchmaking.
Black Canary and Zatanna, together in one podcast. I'm Ryan Daly, and I've got a thing for superheroes in fishnet stockings. That's why I started Power of Fishnets, the Black Canary and Zatanna podcast. Join me every 2 weeks as I celebrate the Blonde Bombshell and the Mistress of Magic in their exciting adventures published by DC Comics. Power of Fishnets, available on iTunes and at fireandwaterpodcast.com.
So which is the hottest Marvel character?
Iron Man.
Ant-Man. I can't decide between Professor X and Magneto, so both.
Loki.
Is Wolverine Marvel?
What about White Tiger?
What about White Tiger?
Doc Samson?
Doc who?
Star Fox?
That's a video game.
The girls go on a journey to determine every Marvel character's hotness in Ohadmu or Not, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe podcast you didn't know you wanted. Available on iTunes and at fireandwaterpodcast.com.